You guys probably seen this article story about a beheading by a Muslim in the U.S., Oklahoma in particular. And in different circles, you get different reactions among neocons, which are basically pro-Zionistic. Um, they're like, okay, well, this tells us that there's a jihad against us, and we need to carry out war against Muslims, or it legitimizes our war against the Muslims already. I'm referring, of course, to Israel and their genocide against Palestinians and Arabs in general, and whites or white Christians that are neoconservatives that basically serve their interest. On the other hand, you're going to have just regular, typical Americans that will say, well, let's not get involved. Let's just let the Muslims kill each other. But the best thing that these people can do is to become aware that your government and its policies and the elements within that government allow these people to come into your country and live here, and they know they're not going to assimilate to your culture. Oklahoma beheader asked that a Muslim be named at his court appointed or as his court appointed lawyer. And then you have this in Sweden. Muslims beat man with iron pipes for hanging Israeli flag in window. This is a big phenomenon that takes place in Sweden, or especially Sweden, Malmo, and that where Jews are getting attacked. And you wonder, well, why? Well, different reasons. One of them is Sweden's just completely open doors when it comes to open immigration of mostly Arabs. But my point is they have a bunch of Muslims because of their open immigration policies that, according to Barbara Specter, a Swedish Zionist, they're behind pushing multiculturalism on Europeans and in Sweden in general. And so, whether these Muslims know it or not, this is going to happen, right? This is one of the side effects. Is Jews are going to be resented, like she said, resented for their role in forcing multiculturalism on Europe. But it's similar to, say, what people refer to as the Holocaust in World War II. Those were Jews that were sending their own people to die, which is why they call it a Holocaust, a burnt sacrifice of their own people in order to get their state of Israel. It's pretty hardcore stuff here. And most of the Arab world, including many of European countries throughout history and over and over again, were weary of having Jews in their country because they tended to create infighting amongst people in order to control them because they're a very small minority, but also they like to use usury and dominate their economy. That's what you don't hear a lot of Christians saying, as far as Jesus overturning the tables, the Jewish temples. He was a rabble rouser trying to overthrow shit, especially the Jewish stranglehold, and yet the Christians don't really see that. They're the first ones to line up to jump on this bandwagon that's going to take people over to fight against this enemy that they've actually helped fabricate and create from the ground up by radicalizing them. I mean, this person was a recent convert. He had Christian tattoos. So this is how it always works. They get these people that aren't even really all that extreme, and they radicalize them. And this happens with your tax dollars. And then they go over there, they create a bunch of crap, blow shit up, behead people, and then they're brought into your country as a humanitarian campaign to allow them to assimilate. 1 in 5 immigrants in Europe ends up in Sweden from September 29th. This is a Eurostat that collects stats on Europe. Says that they've taken in a mass amount of 21.3% of all refugees in Europe. It says here that Sweden was the country that brought in the most illegal immigrants from Africa and the Middle East. Germany and France were actually the preferred choice of refugees, but fewer were let in those countries than Sweden. And they already have their own crap going on in Germany and France. Germany is pretty bad. Berlin's mold-breaking mayor to step down in December. This was from August of this year. This is a different one. The openly gay mayor who turned Berlin into a capital of cool announces intentions amid delays to whatever, blah, 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 right? But this is actually a separate story. Another one, Palestinian-born candidate runs for Berlin mayor. So he broke ground 13 years ago by winning elections after coming out as gay. Now a top candidate to succeed him wants to make history of his own. Palestinian-born Raed Saleh is seeking to become Berlin's first immigrant mayor. So there you go. Now he's going to be German. So he's an ethnic German. It's German blood's, pumping through his veins. Well, no, it's not. Or his. In case you didn't know who's behind this push for bringing these people in, mostly European countries, is Barbara Lerner Specter, a U.S.-born Jewess who is noted mostly for waging a racial campaign against Swedish people in particular and European people in general through the promotion of cultural Marxism and demographic genocide. She is a hardline Zionist and supports Jewish racial chauvinism in occupied Palestine, says the European Institute for Jewish Studies in Sweden, which is an organization funded by the Swedish government and the Wallenberg Foundation to promote Jewish ideology. Through an organization called One Sweden, which she heads, she promotes multiculturalism, or cultural Marxism, which it basically is, against Europeans in their own homeland. And if you can get people to hate themselves, to hate their people, their nation, and their history, you can basically take over their country, take over everything, control them, their society, their economy. And a lot of times, because these people are kind of in a minority status, they're not really big in numbers, they have to have those people, those indigenous people, do it themselves, do a lot of the work themselves. And that's why you'll see, like out there in Germany, you'll see young indigenous German children marching with signs in their hands with Africans from Africa who are saying that once they've bullied their way into their country and started sucking from the German teat, they said, well, we have a right to be here. Kind of like this individual over here. I don't know where he's originally from. But we have a right to be here, and you can't kick us out. So, because you guys are oppressive colonialists, and you invented slavery, and so we have the right to be here, and you got to take it because you're guilty, and we're saints. Anti-whites say that Africa and the Middle East are such a bad place to live because white people colonized them years ago. It's basically just an excuse to make white people feel guilty and therefore open up their borders to mass non-white immigration. Currently, the only people on Earth who are obliged to give handouts and have open borders are European countries. Which is why this article pissed me off when I saw it, talking about Ebola and the cholera in Haiti, basically saying the epidemiology of anti-blackness and the white savior industrial complex. Black lives don't matter. So they're talking about the scourge of anti-blackness is savage, deadly, and global, and it's the white devil that's behind it. So, that's the thing. That's the irony, is if whites are going to allow themselves to be invaded, colonized, and basically exterminated, or almost to the point of extinction, then what it really tells us is that whites believe that white lives don't matter, but everybody else does. And we know this because of all these whites and Europeans in Britain stuff. They go over and they help with Ebola in Africa. And, just completely humanitarian, right? Or completely altruistic. And they go over to help these strange people in a strange land and not their own people. And they come back because they've got infected, and they're going to return back to this place. While they can go to London and they won't see anybody that actually looks like them because they've already been, London's been transformed into, basically this epicenter of globalism and multiculturalism. You won't see too many indigenous English there in London anymore. This one person, U.S. Ebola patient, helped carry convulsing pregnant woman who later died of the virus days before he flew to Texas. It appears an act of compassion led to him contracting Ebola. It's another individual, American Iraqi war veteran, being held by the Islamic State, and set up, after he got out, set up his own little humanitarian coalition, NGO, based in Turkey, right, to help other people that are not his own. Fuck his own people, right? Speaking of this whole stuff, Ebola patient is a Liberian citizen. It's been confirmed. That's the person we just talked about. Obama is refusing to cancel incoming flights from this country. It says here that he openly admits Liberians are flooding into the USA. In 2011, he declared that illegal aliens from Liberia could not be deported. This triggered a huge increase in illegal immigration from the country. Since the outbreak of Ebola, it appears that it's increased even more. The White House also admitted that people are coming from all around the world for medical treatment in the USA. The Pope tells Europe to open doors to illegal immigrants. I ask all the men and women of Europe to open the doors of their hearts. I want to let you know I am near you. I pray for you, and I pray that doors that are closed are open. So, there you go. In June, he called on European governments to help illegal immigrants reach Europe, calling for a concerted effort to encourage governments to facilitate the movement of migrants. Some people call it invasion or colonization, for the benefit of all. Well, it's not the benefit for those people who are already living there, is it? In France, you have indigenous French that live in an apartment building, and they're a minority, and they're being beaten up. They've been attacked by these African immigrants in their own country. Children in Norway bullied by immigrants because they're atheists. I guess that's what it is, but basically Muslims bullying indigenous Norwegian children. You have the French ex-president Sarkozy, again, telling the French to mix races. I've covered this before. He actually said this. But he says race mixing enriches society and consanguinity destroys it. I've never heard that word before, but I'd imagine if you're against mixing, you destroy it. That's kind of weird. Don't you destroy it if you mix? That's how this works, right? If they use these word games against us to kind of trick our minds into thinking that we're not, what we're thinking isn't instinctive and good and natural. They have to turn that around, reprogram you. By calling it multiculturalism, they're saying that the culture that exists there, the indigenous culture, will be destroyed. So it's anti-indigenous culture. That's what multiculturalism is. It doesn't actually exist. It won't exist. These people will not want to assimilate, and they show that they don't. At least most of them. This person from ylfsweden.com said that if you try talking to most Swedes, very few can actually keep a conversation going, even less start a conversation. He says it's like kicking a dead horse. Most folks in Sweden who are state and media educated won't talk about these things. He says it's scary when you can't speak directly to a human being. I've had experiences getting a series or set of pre-programmed phrases or combinations of words fired at me. When you try to break down the points, you enter into the deep, dark forest of irrationality. It's like they're possessed. As bad as it really is out there in Sweden, I'm sure that most Europeans and Scandinavians will go back to their roots, and they will eventually stand up. It's not the case in America. They immigrated here for economic reasons, not for any kind of ties to the land or to each other. Apparently, this is the last hope for whites in America. Beyond, a 17-year-old white kid was bawling like a little kid because Beyonce, this black chick, didn't show up